Well, hello, everyone. This is Wilson Cole, president of Adams, Evans, and Ross, Backdoor Hires and ELOC Global Partners. I am joined today with Samantha, my daughter, and also our staff attorney. How are you doing today, Sam?
Doing well. How are you?
No, doing fine. We're going to talk about something that's near and dear to your heart, on a situation that we can't give specifics, but in generality, we had a client that, in my opinion, was totally screwed. They had screwed themselves from the beginning, and I'm actually surprised that we were able to get about a 50% settlement on an account that I'm shocked that they paid. I'm shocked that they paid because they had painted themselves into a really bad position with their contract from way back when. The fact there was no contract now. Samantha, kind of, and what this is, if you hear Sam and I talk about, you need a signed contract, absolutely, but you need a contract that doesn't hose you over on getting paid, and job specific contracts are very bad. Samantha, why are job specific contracts very bad?
Let's go of you are brought on and we're going to hire a project manager. You submit project managers, but there's one who also has experience in another area. Hopefully your job specific contract has in there that if they're hired for any position, you get a fee, but I can't tell you how many times if it's a job specific contract, they don't even have that protection in there. Mm-hmm. So they get all these resumes and it's like, John Smith would actually be a great accounts rep. And they hire him for that, you don't get a fee. Mm-hmm. Or if it says that you were brought on to search for this and it even has that, but let's say you go on for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, they send you an email saying they need somebody and you're filling those roles thinking you've got a contract in place because you've dealt with them for years. There's not a contract in place. So it's different statute of limitations. It's different levels of what you need to get the courts to see that you're owed a fee.
Yep.
It's let's say that you have in your contract a 35% fee. Well, industry standard, the courts may determine it's 20.
Yep.
And they, how do you know that there was going to be 35% on this? It is a continuous, just one step in front of another.
Yep.
Even if you don't have a date, because another thing that I've dealt with that's kind of a sibling to this is even if it's not specific, it'll have from date A to date B. Unless you have it on your calendar to get a new contract signed at 12:59 or 11:59 on date B,
I agree.
You need to be careful.
You need to be careful. And then also, you touched on something that the attorney played on a little bit, but I'm shocked that he didn't run with it because we would have lost. We would not have only lost. I don't know if I could have even gotten our attorney in California, which, for example, we're going to use California, and he is our largest volume attorney. Is a lot of people say, well, I don't need to have a contract. Wilson, you say that. I agree. In most states, you don't have to, and that's a fallback position. But all of the limitations that Samantha just talked about come into play. But in addition to that is a signed contract in Atlanta or in California, for instance, may be valid for 7 years on a debt because of statutes of limitations, or actually I think it's 8 years out in California. Verbal contracts in California are only valid for 2 years. So if it takes our client 2 or 3 years to find a backdoor hire, guess what? Statutes of limitation says you no longer have a debt. Now, I know the fallback position. Go ahead.
The stats don't start tolling until they find out about it. And California does have some safeguards for that. but it's an argument that you don't want to sit there and have to have.
Well, when it's an argument you don't want to have when the originations of these, the clock really starts when you find out about it. I've seen it going both ways, and then that argument started out with personal injury attorneys, where somebody takes $100,000 settlement and then realizes 5 years later they really fractured their back and now they're fighting arthritis, and so you didn't know stuff. So this is why people hate attorneys is, well, we didn't know that injury happened. So, and so it becomes an argument there. I have seen very mixed reviews, and the flip side of it is our attorneys, whether they're in California or whether they're in Florida, are all running a business, and they are chasing dollars. So if an attorney looks at it and goes, I think we're going to have a hard time proving it, and this just isn't our attorney, this could be their own local attorney. That is why attorneys say, you know what, I'm going to charge a retainer, or I'm going to charge you an hourly rate. If an attorney is charging you an hourly rate or a retainer on a collection account, that should be your first sign that he's not 100% sure he thinks you've got a great case. So the easiest way to do it is for any position, any job, from last discussion or presentation of the candidate, that's going to kind of extend that period of time out and get the contract signed. Samantha, any parting words?
I think also know what you're putting in the contract, because I can't tell you how many times I've run in the last week, I've been dealing with copy and paste contracts
that make no sense. It's like a ransom note. It's like a ransom note. A ransom note for your dog.
Or maybe Mad Libs. Like, insert. We had one that jurisdiction of who was in charge, if there was a dispute on this contract, fell to 3 different court systems.
That one's pretty bad. My all-time favorite is the party that was responsible for all disputes was the Better Business Bureau. Our client, in their own contract, gave authority to someone that has no authority, so they could not sue. It was at the sole discretion of the Better Business Bureau, which is unenforceable. So Anyway.
So I think just if you're copy and pasting, double check and make sure everything matches, because I can't tell you how many times clients have had something in paragraph 1 that differs in paragraph 3, and the courts throw it out as a unenforceable contract because none of it made sense.
Well, Samantha, one thing that you did for a lot of our clients, and we have to walk a fine line, even though you're an attorney, we can't give legal advice, we can only give collection advice, but you created a contract based on just best collection practices. And we can only provide it to our clients because of the relationship that we have. So if you're an existing client of ours, reach out to me. I'll get you a copy of the best practices agreement. If you're not a client of ours, turn over some account so we can call you a client of ours, and we'll get you a copy of that contract. But Samantha, any closing arguments on this? Just make sure that you don't paint yourself into a corner. That's all I can say.
Don't make it harder than it needs to be.
Don't make it harder. This is one of the few times that I say be more of a generalist than a specialist on this, because a lot of clients will say, you know what, I don't put a possessory period in my agreement. Well, they think that they have now ownership forever. In essence, they very well may have reduced the time that they have ownership, but don't make it job specific. Sam, thanks for joining me. If you're a client and you'd like a copy of that contract, email me over at Wilson@AER Collections. If you're not, then become a client so we can get you a copy of that free agreement. Sam, thanks as always for joining me, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks.